Hello everybody, you're very welcome to another talking video from the National Leprechaun Museum. I'm Eleanor, I'm joined today by Mark.
Hello.
And today we're talking animals.
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
I'm so excited.
Yeah?
This is a video I've wanted to do since we started even talking about doing this series of videos. But one of the big issues with it is even though Ireland is quite a small chunk of rock,
Yeah.
we have such a range of animals that we can talk about that I'm just going to choose a select few animals for this one.
Yeah, so full disclaimer, we're not talking all the animals.
We wouldn't be, well, I'm sure we could.
I'm sure we could, and hopefully I think we might get the chance in the future to talk some other animals in more detail.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes, indeed.
I know we've talked about, we will take another one, not that I'm going to avoid talking about cows today, but that, in Irish mythology, they're so important. That's a completely separate video.
Yes.
So I struggled with, at the start, what animals would I focus on?
Of course.
And I asked you a question the other day. I asked you what animal you saw yourself as.
Yes.
And what did you say?
I said a doe, a deer, a female deer.
Hooray! What was it about the deer that made you like? What is the similarities? Would that be your patronus? Is that your spirit animal?
Perhaps. I think the question of what deer you would like, what animal you would like to be and what animal you actually might be, there can be very different answers there.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, the mighty eagle or whatever. But deers, I think they just seemed like quiet but strong. And also, they look gorgeous and have lovely eyes.
They absolutely do. I see what you're saying. But you're right, the animal we choose for ourselves will probably be different.
It's sort of, a bit egotistical.
But I can see the deer thing, but I probably see it for a different reason than you see it.
Okay.
Because the deer in Irish mythology, in Irish folklore, is seen as quite a wild animal. They do compose themselves well. And while you see a lot of imagery of them running away and being chased, particularly in Christian stories in Ireland, you see this idea of saints taming deers.
Okay.
And working with them. One particular story sees where a saint, one of his horses is lame, so he asks one of his men to go and bring him a stag to draw his cart.
Wow.
And of course the servant is quite nervous about this, but when he goes into the woods, a huge stag presents itself, and because it's for the saint, he willingly goes with him.
Wow. Delivers
the saint to his destination and then is released and let go. But the great thing about deer is you can go see them in Ireland.
Yes, indeed you can, in many places around Ireland, but probably most notably in the Phoenix Park in Dublin, in the middle of the city.
Yeah, and they're protected. They're protected in Phoenix Park. If you want to hunt deer in Ireland, you have to get a licence.
Okay.
Because they are seen as a pest as well.
Really?
It's hard to kind of imagine that because they're so beautiful with their gorgeous eyes, Eleanor. But they're a pest. They do destroy woodland as well if they're allowed to be in such great numbers.
Okay.
In fact, the only county in Ireland where you can't hunt deer is down in Kerry.
Really?
Yeah.
In the kingdom? In
the kingdom, yeah. But they are seen like as protectors of the animal, that you can't hunt them there at all. There's three main species of deer in Ireland, and they all can be found in Kerry, but they're protected down there.
There also used to be an animal, and I guess in older Ireland, that's extinct now, the elk. The Great Irish Elk.
Yeah.
Which is basically a huge deer, right?
Yeah, like a massive moose. There's a great example of it in the Natural History Museum.
Yes, indeed. But there's also lots of stories about deer to be found with the Fianna in the Fenian cycle.
Yeah, they're a big deal because, again, the hunting of them, and probably the Fianna were probably just controlling the numbers.
Yeah.
Because I remember in one story that they're out and it's seen that they've killed 1,000 deer in a week.
Wow.
But then you see the other side of them being driven by this, because you have the story of the birth of Usheen.
Yes.
Where Fiona's men are out on a hunt and he's chasing this deer, and his two dogs, of course, corner this deer but won't attack. And the dogs, who of course were human themselves in a way, recognized this magical creature and that knew that it was actually Sive, a woman who'd been bewitched by a druid. And Fionn takes her in, and of course in their dwelling at night she becomes this beautiful woman, and the two lay together, and of course the next morning, at sunrise, she runs off back into the woods, never to be seen or heard from again. And on a later hunt again, where they're hunting deer, they come across this small boy who can't speak in the woods, and Fionn recognises it as his son and actually gives him the name Oisin, which means little fawn.
Oh.
So they're really important in our stories, and are usually kind of revered in our stories, even though they're still hunted.
Yes.
But you actually see where the Fianna, of course, are always hunting and taking on the deer. There's a great story about a guy called Don Dovlin, which is Don of Dublin, not to be confused with the god of nature, Don. And this guy had been cursed and turned into a great stag. And he gathered together thousands of other stags and deer and put out word that Fionn McCool would be no match for them. The Fianna would be no match for this army of deer and stags. And Fionn hears about it and of course takes his men to go for a great battle. And the stags kill 100 of the Fianna. And if it wasn't for the hunting dogs, for Fionn's dogs, I think the stags would have won. But they eventually hunt down and corner Don, who's then killed by Fionn.
Wow. And then we'd be telling like deer tales, more deer tales and deer stories.
Yeah.
If the deer had taken over from the Fianna,
it would be a
we'd
very
be
different,
speaking deer right now.
Very, very different creature. But it's nice to see them kind of standing up for themselves.
Yeah.
And being led by this character. And of course Dun, the god as well, probably why the name was used in that story, is often seen as a stag himself, being a god of nature and associated with animals and woodlands and forests. So the deer, perfectly suitable to you.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
thank you.
Dangerous when cornered.
Yeah.
And big beautiful eyes. I wish I had an animal that I saw myself as kind of prestigious, as admirable as a deer. But an old nickname of mine is what kind of gives me my animal, which is the badger.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will admit, I see where they're coming from.
Yeah. Well, actually, I had the name before I had the coloration in my beard. Because the badger is seen as quite a grumpy and gruff old character, and I'd be seen in that way by some people. I don't see it myself. But I do love the Irish word for badger, which is brook. And of course for deer it's fia, which is a beautifully feminine kind of word. But brook is a nice kind of harsh.
Kind of matches the sort of temperament. Yeah.
But yeah, they're not particularly held in high regard in a lot of our mythology. But again, when you see their interaction with saints, you see a good side to them.
Okay.
And there's a saint who had set up a dwelling for himself in the woods, and he'd befriended all the animals, including the badger. And one day a fox, and they always have a bad reputation, a fox steals a sandal of the saint and runs off with it, but is chased down by the badger, who takes the fox by the ear and drags the fox and the sandal back to the saint. Which is a nice way to see him, because he is kind of like a father figure in the animals.
Yes. Yes, indeed. In a lot of popular depictions of badgers, they're always sort of giving advice or looking out for the other animals.
Yeah.
Like just off the top of my head, Wind in the Willows are fantastic.
Yeah,
Mr.
I
Fox.
love Badger and Wind in the Willows.
The animals of Farthing Wood.
Well dressed as well.
Yeah.
I will say that about the Badger. Very, very well dressed. But they literally get demonised in Ireland.
Really?
And particularly down in County Clare, there's a story of a demon badger who 6 holy men tried to tame, and it was only the arrival of a saint that even he can't actually tame him.
Oh my
But
gosh.
what he can do is he stops them for long enough to chain him, and they throw him into a lake.
Wow.
Yeah, if they can't do it, if they can't, sedate the badger, then they kill it.
Would that have anything But would that have been anything to do with the she, then? The fairies?
It was seen as like a guardian of the other world as well. And I suppose it's that kind of Christianity versus what was there beforehand. But the people themselves didn't like them. And particularly farmers didn't like them, which is really strange because badgers eat an awful lot of pests that would affect farm life. But you see, actually, again, County Clare, who don't like badgers, there's a story of a woman who gets pregnant out of wedlock, who leaves her baby at a badger set, thinking the badger's going to eat the child. But the child is actually raised by the badger.
Wow.
And is found years later non-verbal, taken in again by a holy man, but the child is always seen as being gruff and grumpy and frustrated by other children in the stories.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not particularly nice.
No, but it's better than the child dying. It just becomes a happy badger child. Happy for a badger, like.
Yeah, there's another great story where a son of a king says he's going to throw a feast for his father, and he's going to serve the meat of every animal. And the meat of a badger was seen as being quite good. Badgers were kind of broken down into two categories, what was called a dog badger and a pig badger. And a pig badger is vegetarian, and it was safe to eat the meat of those. But this young noble has no badger meat. So he goes to the badgers and converses with them and says, as a mark of honour, would they parade for the king? And when the badgers turn up at the king's home, the son and the soldiers slaughter 100 badgers. And the father is furious that his son was so dishonest that he gives him the name Tig, which is another word for badger, and banishes him. Kicks him out of the family, out of the kingdom for damaging the badger.
Wow.
It's also the symbol of Hufflepuff, which I like as well.
Yes.
Snappy me, so you're a deer and I'm a badger.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I love the animal and I get it, but it wouldn't be like my favourite animal or anything like that. I think my favourite animal would change day to day, but any particular animals that you love?
Gosh, well, when I was a little girl, I was a horse girl.
As in the school play, you played the front end or back end of a horse?
No, I was one of those girls who was really into horses. I used to take lessons in horse riding, and then I got very slowly allergic to horses and I had to stop. But even after that, for years, I would always read like Pony magazine.
Pony magazine.
Yeah.
It's horses. I'm afraid they're big.
Yeah. And
that makes me. They seem lovely and all that. I prefer cows because they seem more social.
Yeah.
But horses are credited in terms of being introduced to Ireland to Lugh.
Really?
To the god Lugh. But probably the most famous god associated with horses is Manannán mac Lir, and he had a white horse. Einbar was his horse, a white horse which could run on land and on sea.
Wow.
And you see that horse being borrowed at times by other people.
Yes.
Probably most famously in the story of Tír na nÓg.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, where Niamh has it. And there's a very similar story to Niamh of Tír na nÓg, which is called Cleana's Wave.
Yes.
Where they go to the land of promise as opposed to Niamh and the land of forever youth. Where Cleana actually acknowledges that her foster father, Manannán mac Lir, will be angry that she's borrowed the horse. It's the equivalent of like borrowing the car without permission. But even Cuchulain's two horses are depicted as pulling his chariot, and that great statue down by the Irish Life Mall in Dublin near Colony Station, they're coming out of the water.
Yes.
But a lot of people don't know that Cuchulain's horses came from the water. They actually came out of a lake.
Wow.
That's how he got his horses. So the horse is so important in our stories. And of course, you have then the Curse of Macha, where she races against the horse. But yeah, before the arrival of the horse in Ireland, it was all kind of literally donkey work. And cows and animals like that that pulled it. The horse is a much later introduction into Ireland.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Isn't there an association of again with the scene on the coast, the white foam of the waves breaking being associated with horses?
Yeah.
I can't remember the term of it, but
I can't think of the term either. But again, in Ireland, it all seems to come down to the wild white mane of Eibar, which Manaman's horse. But seahorses.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, you have those. But horses are incredible creatures. And of course, I love the puka. And one of the forms the puka takes is that of a horse.
Yes, indeed.
There's just great stories of people happening upon a dark horse late at night and going over to rub it and being stolen away. But they're always returned.
Yes,
There's no stories involving horses where anyone really comes to any harm.
No.
The horse is more a servant.
Yes.
A creature of servitude.
Even in the story of the Curse of Maka, as you mentioned, the horse the horse is again a sort of a tool.
Yeah.
You know, it's entertainment. Literally, that setting is horse racing.
Yeah.
You know.
It is. A horse is just a horse.
Yes. But horses and horse racing is something that's very much associated with Ireland today.
That's because we keep going over to England and taking all their money at Cheltenham.
Yeah.
We have the best jockeys and the best horses, and great stories around the Curragh as well, which is the home of good quality horses in Ireland. Again, you've gone with an animal that I can't compete with. You've got this grace and this nobility to you. And I've got these creatures.
Maybe that's what I'm aspiring to.
Nah, you've got it down. Because they don't seem like a surprise to you. And if I was to tell you, and I know we talked about this recently on a live, I love pigs.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, like badgers and pigs are creatures that are close to the ground. And even in terms of leprechauns, because we are at the Leprechaun Museum.
Oh, yeah.
You see that one of the things that leprechauns eat are referred to as pig nuts.
Oh, yes.
And what a pig nut means is anything that's on the kind of forest floor that they can eat. And actually in The Tempest, Shakespeare was The Tempest, the character says his nails were so long that he could dig for pig nuts. So, while people say that pigs eat everything, and you could say that about myself, but I'm such a fussy eater. There's so many things I don't eat, and pigs actually are very similar in that way. But they will hunt out truffles, but they're nibblers. They're very select in what they'll eat, so they don't live up to their expectation, the reputation they have. Similarly, when they're seen as dirty creatures. But you can domesticate a pig.
Yes.
Pigs love people. They're incredibly loyal and social animals. You can bring them into your home. They don't, where they sleep and they eat, they won't defecate. And they also get sunburn, which is why they cover themselves in mud. They're applying factor 50.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I love about them.
Maybe part of that sort of reputation that pigs have comes from their Irish name.
Oh, which is muck.
Yes, muck.
I love it. Again, it's like with badger, I got bruck, and you got fear, and then for horse you get couple.
Which sounds like their hooves.
Yeah.
Couple.
And then I get muck.
Muck. Yeah. But there's that expression in Irish, isn't there? Muinnim wicca, I think, which means on the pig's back, I believe. Which is
to be doing well.
To be doing well or to be really happy.
Yeah. Well, pigs are really happy animals. They get on really well with other animals. You search the internet, you will see unlikely friendships between like a pig and a donkey, or a pig and a goose. They are incredible animals in terms of how social they are. Yet in our mythology, they are seen as being fierce, wild creatures, which, similar to you as a deer, won't back down from a fight.
Right.
And it's why the hunting of wild pigs and wild boar by the Fianna was seen as such a great challenge to take them on. Again, you see Don the god featuring in this when his son Dermot and him they're at this great feast, this great party, and of course there's jealousy there that Angus has given his attention to one of his servants' children, and he's killed. Don kills the young boy.
Wow.
But the young boy is resurrected in the form of a wild pig. It was the only way they could bring him back. But it said that that boy would kill the other boy, who was Dermot.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, and you see that in the story of Dermot and Grania.
Yeah.
Where they run off together, at her behest.
Indeed.
He's quite unwilling at the start, you know.
Yeah. He comes around.
He comes around to it, and they're being chased by Fionn McCool,
Yes.
who also comes around when Angus steps in, and Fionn, I think unwillingly, forgives them, and Fionn and Oisin and Oscar attend a great feast being held at the dwelling of Diarmaid and Grania. But when Fionn suggests going out for a hunt, Diarmaid goes and he takes his, I suppose, his lesser weapons with him. And he faces off against this wild boar which has killed several men. And it impales Diarmaid on the tusks of this wild pig. And Diarmaid lays dying. But he can be saved. He can be saved by Fionn when Fionn takes these special waters from a nearby spring. And if he gives it to Diarmaid, Diarmaid will live. But Fionn lets the water slip between his fingers. Not just once, but twice. And when he's pulled up on this and told you have to save him, on the third time he takes the water over, but it's too late and Diarmaid had passed. And the prophecy has been fulfilled. He's been killed by the wild boar, which was the other child resurrected. And yeah, quite a savage creature. Driven by revenge, though.
Yes, indeed. And, a magical prophecy
Yeah.
in that case.
I went in stark contrast to me saying how wonderful
yes.
pigs were, because they're really great animals and they're good luck as well. In our folklore, as opposed to our mythology, to drive a pig into your home in early May was meant to give you prosperity and
really?
good luck as well. Yeah. But again, like the badger, they've got this kind of duality to them where some people demonize them, some people have seen them as being great.
Okay.
And you've got your demon badger, but you've also got the muckadove.
Okay.
The muckdove up in South Donegal was a wild black pig that was ravaging the land and killing people, and people wouldn't go out at night. It was like a ghost kind of black pig.
Gosh.
Yeah, not a nice creature at all. And it's said still to roam the land up there, up in the north, up in Donegal.
So it hasn't been felled. It
hasn't been felled. There's no stories of a holy man coming along and taming this creature. It's very much like the puka in how it's seen to kind of roam around the place, but it's very angry, and you don't want to get cornered by it. And there's lots of stories of men arriving home dishevelled, saying that they've been chased by the muckdove.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
That makes me think twice about going to Donegal for my holidays next year.
Oh no, absolutely go to Donegal. It's so beautiful. I want to fly to Donegal, which I've never done before, only because the landing is meant to be so beautiful up there. If you're listening from Donegal, I'm so jealous that you get to be there. But one of my final things I'll say about the pig, I learned this on a field trip with the museum. We were actually up in Armagh, and we'd finished our field trip activities for the day, and we were socialising with each other, and we happened across a book of facts. And one of the facts was that the first toothbrushes, the bristles were made of pig hair.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we have pigs in part to thank for dental hygiene.
And again, super
clean.
Super clean creatures.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Absolutely does.
Yes.
So we've covered our the animals we see ourselves as.
Yeah.
The animals that we love.
Yes, our favourites.
Our favourites. But there are just so many animals, and we've not even hit on like the big ones that you think of in terms of Irish mythology, which is the cow, which we will tackle.
Yeah.
The children of Lear with the swans. Foxes, yeah. I remember doing a great story about the fox coming into the
cabin.
Into the cabin, yeah. Go and check out some of our... Yeah, we told on live, which they're all available on Facebook and on Instagram, IGTV. But I think there's so much more we're going to have to talk to about animals. But that, I think, that's enough.
That's enough
in that to digest.
Yes, indeed.
But if people have animals that they love, I'm sure you'll find them in Irish folklore.
Yes, indeed.
We don't have bears.
We don't have bears. We don't have moles.
We don't have moles.
No, we don't have moles in Ireland. They are, there's plenty of them in the UK, but no, we've never had moles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because a lot of animals, and I suppose this is a good thing to kind of finish up on, is the absence of animals and animals that have been introduced, but no moles.
No moles.
Apparently no snakes because of St. Patrick.
Yes, indeed. No elephants.
No elephants, apart from in Dublin Zoo.
Yeah.
But actually another one that we do have, which it was said we didn't have, was the frog.
Oh, right.
And I love frogs as well.
They're great.
Frogs and
They're
toads.
fun.
What's not? So many people I see now on social media identifying or obsessing over frogs.
Yes.
Frogs are becoming the new foxes, I think. I know it's a strange statement, but I can see them. I can see them slowly creeping up.
Friendly frogs.
But also guardians of the other world in the story Up the Airy Mountain, Little Bridget.
Yes.
They're talking about how the lake is the frogs are like watchdogs, all night while she sleeps. But the frog was seen as being something not native to Ireland, and there's an old story where some Englishmen in Ireland find a frog, and they take it to one of the kings as if to say, "There's this frog in Ireland, and they've never been here before."
Wow.
And the king's interpretation is that the invasion of this creature was a sign. It was a premonition almost like of that the British would be invading Ireland and coming in.
Wow.
And there are variations on that story that suggest that these British soldiers brought the frog with them and just happened to find it as a way to sow seeds of doubt. But the frog is lumped in with the snake in that regard, as being creatures that don't belong in Ireland, and when they're here, it's a bad sign.
What do you mean when snakes are here?
Well, we do have lizards and stuff like that in Ireland, and we have snakes in the zoo, and we have people with pet snakes.
Yeah.
I know a few people with pet snakes, and they're wonderful creatures.
That's true. That's true. But that doesn't mean they go around the place. They're not freely roaming. St. Patrick put paid to that.
Well, we haven't been able to have a St. Patrick's Festival last year, or indeed this year now.
No.
So maybe snakes will return.
Yeah, maybe this is the year.
I know one person out there who has a snake that was found roaming free up near the Botanic Gardens.
Oh, wow.
Obviously, it had escaped, and it wasn't native, but the snake is doing very well and is thriving with their new home. But that's my take on animals. I think if people want to check out animals in Irish folklore, a great book is, sorry, you can probably reach it better than I can. This book, Ireland's Animals, which they do a series of Ireland's birds, Ireland's wild plants, and Ireland's trees, is a great book to check out. It covers so many animals. We also didn't tackle goats.
Or dogs or wolves.
No. See, if I was to pick an animal for myself that I would like to be, I think a lot of guys would go for a wolf.
Yeah.
But I just gotta accept what I've been landed with, and I'll take the badger.
The noble badger.
Thank you. The noble badger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks to our noble badger for taking us on this journey of exploring 4 of Ireland's animals in Irish folklore and mythology. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much.
I can't keep calling you Noble Badger for the rest of our
I don't know.
lives,
I'm kind of growing. I'm liking it.
And thank you so much for watching and joining us. Please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And we'll be joining you again soon with more talking videos. That's it from us. That's it from me. And thank you again. Goodbye.
Bye.